Some people think that the radio has gone the way of the VHS tape, but nay, that is not true. Millions of people still listen to the radio every single day, and I got a very weird phone call today. It was from a Manchester number, so I immediately thought, this is definitely a scam.
Not this time.
Picked it up, and lo and behold, it was Radio 5 Live. Anyway, in the UK, taking the morning slot, Nikki Campbell is on the show, and they wanted to talk about Hogwarts Legacy. And I said, okay, sure, what time is this show on? And they went, it's on in 10 minutes.
What? What the f?
So I was like, I'm at work. I'm not in a particularly great soundproof place. And they're like, nah, it's fine. Do you want to come on? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
That escalated quickly.
So what's coming up is me recording myself with the only thing I had available to me, which was a GoPro and a lavalier mic, and me trying to mix it together into something that's worth listening to, because I was actually using my Apple headphones to speak to, well, the nation. So sorry if the audio quality is a bit kind of meh, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, then you can actually listen to it online. If you go to www.bbc.co.uk/sound/play/M001HWZP. I did streamline it a little bit. There was some texts and stuff that were read out too, but I kind of left those out a bit. But if you want to listen to the whole thing, it's there. Some really good discussion was made, actually. Let's see where this Hogwarts Legacy train takes us, shall we?
Just love the music on video games. I aspire to that. Victoria's still with us and Ethan. We've got a bit more Dave, content creator, gamer, YouTuber, made a video about this 3 days ago. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
That's good. Victoria's and Mark in Huddersfield as well. Hi, Mark. Listen.
Good morning.
Do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to explore the magic just for a bit as well. We've heard the mayhem. Let's do the magic. A bit more, Dave. Tell us more.
Yes.
Tell us about this world. Tell us about the alluring, seductive, mysterious and magical world that has been created.
Probably the best thing about this game in terms of playing it has to be the fact that, and you heard a bit of it on the trailer, learning the Cruciatus Curse. Anybody who's read the books know that it's a horrible, horrible thing that tortures people, actually drives people into insanity. But the whole game, you can yes. It seems like this morning you've had a bit of insanity yourself on the show. It's quite interesting, but. You can play however you want. So if you want to play as an evil character, you can do. In fact, one of the highest viewed videos on Twitch was a guy who played only evil choices. You can play book smart, you can be dumb, you can play as you can play courageous. Basically, you can play the game however you want it, which is why I think that this whole thing about boycotting the game is just simply ridiculous. It's not Avalanche's fault for making the game the way it's not Avalanche's fault for somebody else's views, if that makes sense. Whether you agree with them or not, I don't. So I think it is a fantastic game, and I think it deserves all the attention it's getting.
Take us in a bit more to it. It deserves all the attention it's getting. Obviously, on the basis of the fundamental truth of the fact that it's an amazing game to play. How does it
Absolutely.
How does it compare with others?
Well, do you know what the thing is there's not really been another game like this, as mentioned before. There's not really been a true open world. The closest you could get would be Chamber of Secrets, which was on the PlayStation 2 about, however many years ago, whenever the Chamber of Secrets film released, I guess, where you could run around a little bit, but you never had any of these choices. It was very linear gameplay. This is massive open world, lots of time. I think it's been in development since before 2018. So the amount of effort and time, hundreds of developers. One of my cousins is actually a lead developer at Avalanche. I don't know if he worked on this game specifically, but I know that the small project he was last working on took about 4 years to complete. So something of this scale the effort that goes in can't be ignored. It's as simple as that, no matter what the original creator thought about it.
How lost did you get in it?
I haven't completed it yet, but so far it's normally a good sign that I haven't just completed it in one sitting. I've had to go back multiple times.
But you lost the clock. You were completely immersed.
Oh yeah, of course, you'd be completely immersed. Yeah, absolutely. Everything from the mechanics. I think the only weak side is maybe the story, but that's the same with any sort of open world game. Unfortunately, you always tend to get sidetracked into all of the side content. So,
a bit more, Dave. A bit more, Dave.
Yes.
You get the row? Do you,
Do I
I mean, the
do I get the row?
row that's raging around it, and I've had a couple of tweets
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, you're confecting a row that doesn't exist." Boy, does this row exist!
It does, yeah, it does exist. So I luckily sort of stayed a little bit away from it, and that was what my whole video was. The video was the Hogwarts Legacy boycott is very confusing. The first thing that I found very confusing about is that even if you assume that J.K. Rowling, I'm not sure she is exactly, but even if you assume that she's all these things that these people are portraying her to be, and you ask them, I don't know, let me ask the panel, who here has watched the film Django Unchained or The Imitation Game? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Well, that was made by the Weinstein Company. Does that mean that we should then just completely boycott every single one of those films? It makes very little sense. The lady who was on about said on the Guardian from the Guardian said you should never separate the art from the artist. And said, well, what about Pablo Picasso and what about all of however many artists have all had very troubled times? And this isn't just one artist. This is hundreds of people in the studio spending years of their life dedicated to making something.
If it was a normal game like, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto or you know, would they do that? It's just, it doesn't make sense.
To me, it's all baiting, isn't it? There was a website that briefly came up that was called who-streamed-that-wizard-game.com, and it was
the
solely
game must not be
created.
named. Yeah.
Yes, it was solely created so that people could log on and check if their favorite YouTubers and streamers have played the game and then harass them for it, which is way worse. Let's fight J.K. Rowling's supposed bullying with our own bullying, because that works. That always makes sense.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Toxicity in gaming. Let me just make the point as well. I mean, Kez was saying separating the art from the artist is very difficult. It's sometimes more difficult than on other occasions. There are, my goodness me, we can go into a long list of people who have been accused of, guilty of, suspected of various crimes and misdemeanors right along the spectrum. And you make a really good point about Hollywood. And in the wake of the Me Too movement and the proper focus on sexual abuse and sexual harassment, there are a million films that we adore and actors that we've admired that people watch now and they think, but maybe we should just take the story as it is and the performance as it is, because it's a slippery,
that's where you should.
It's a slippery slope to a kind of hell. What about those people who danced on their wedding night to One Day in Your Life by Magic Johnson, by Michael Jackson? Now that's going to start a fire. But that documentary, I know people who worked on that documentary, without going into what was not in that documentary, that's problematic. I only say that because we've had a few texts on it. Does this conversation have parallels with the Michael Jackson debate? Should we still listen to his music? Never convicted, but you know.
There's another example. My wife, I got married about 1.5 years ago. Me and my wife, when we were growing up, both loved a band called the Lost Prophets, Welsh band. I'm from Wales originally.
I don't think I could listen to them.
No, we can't either. Well, I'm not saying that, you know, we can't separate the art from the artist in that case, because the crimes were so horrendous.
Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't.
Sometimes we can. It's the nature of human grey area. But here's the problem that I have with the whole gaming thing, is that this isn't made by one person. This isn't made by a singular person with a singular goal. This is a franchise. It's been singled out. A developer has made it.
I want to make something quite clear, by the way, before you go any further, just in case, just looking at the reactions. We are in no way equating that separation of the art and the artist examples that we said. We are in no way equating that to J.K. Rowling. Whatever you think of J.K. Rowling, there is not a parallel. What we are talking about is what Kaz from The Guardian spoke about separating the art from the artist. We're going Pablo Picasso, we're going Michael Jackson, we're going
Ian Watkins.
Yeah.
That was Lost Prophets.
Just want to make that clear.
Yes, no, absolutely. I listened to Stephen Fry, read the Harry Potter books, as I'm sure everybody knows, and as a young child growing up, I listened to all of them. I think they're fantastic. I think the story is fantastic, but that doesn't necessarily. We're not talking about J.K. Rowling. We're talking about the game, and the game should be put on its own merits by the developers
that spent their hard years that created it, and you should go and enjoy it.
It's not the first time, Victoria, as you point out, that there has been a raging row in the gaming world.
Well, I mean, not so much this. I don't think I've ever heard of anything so. There's never been anything like this. And as I said, my boys are gamers. They play constantly, and my sons tell me everything that's going on in the game world, even if I'm not interested. But I've never ever heard of any other game being hit so hard as this one.
But never with Nicky Campbell. Completely disingenuous to allow all that tripe about what J.K. Rowling said when even the smallest amount of scrutiny and research can identify her tweets and what she actually has said. I welcome all opinions. I was trying to get out of that argument because we'd be here all day long and we were trying to concentrate on the game, but I appreciate and I respect what you said. There are lots of things that cross my mind all the time about what people say and what I want to say, but I wanted to steer it out of there as much as I possibly could, perhaps unsuccessfully. Sorry about that. But toxicity in the gaming world, a bit more, Dave. Tell us about that.
It's Twitter, isn't it? It's not even necessarily the gaming world. It's just it's people believe they have anonymity online, and therefore they might say things that they don't think about before they type it out or write it out and send it, and then that gets both sides of the argument up to an extreme. It's hasn't it always been that way? It's just been not as easy for everybody to put their opinions with their unthinking opinions online. Isn't that the story as age old as time?
It seems to be getting worse, unfortunately.
I don't know if it's getting worse.
Age old as time is a lovely concept.
No. Sorry. Okay, fine.
I know what you mean. No, it's perfect. I loved it because it seems to have been here forever, doesn't it?
Was there not outrage when comics? Wasn't there a golden age of comics where people they had to have ESRB like ratings and all that sort of stuff? And books, isn't every form of art scrutinized like this? And gaming is just the most modern.
Lady Chatterley's lover. Yeah.
Oh yeah, big scrutiny after the Lady Chatterley. Yeah.
So surely
D.H. Lawrence,
this will
the
just go on
flack he
forever.
got online. I tell you what.
Oh.
He had to go off Twitter for a while, didn't he? At D.H. Lawrence. I bet there is an at D.H. Lawrence as well.
I bet you there is.
There is. Mark in Huddersfield. Everyone's frantically looking. Mark, go.
Hi, good morning, Nicky and everybody else. Nicky, I'm coming to this from a different viewpoint.
He's got 2 followers, by the way, at D.H. Lawrence. But there we are. Carry on. Sorry, mate. Carry on.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this from the point of view of vast intolerance from people. All J.K. Rowling's done is express her own opinion. But because it's differed from a very vociferous minority group, all hell's got loose. Now, my point, briefly put, is there's 63 plus million people in the UK. And what we've got here is a very small minority trying to dictate to the rest of us, calling us, the word genocide was mentioned.
The problem with all of it is the fact that you have people on social media, trolls, because I'm studying trolling, cyberbullying and so on in university doing my master's and then onto my PhD. And the problem is these people, some of them don't necessarily care what your viewpoint is, and they just want someone to target. They will literally go out of their way. They'll create all these anonymous accounts and they will go out of their way to target all these people. They won't really care about the actual subject they're talking about. They
There's
just
lots
want
of witch
arguments.
hunts.
That's very
Lots
true.
of witch
Very
hunts.
true.
They don't care. They really do not
It's an
care.
unattractive
Trolls are trolls.
aspect of the
Talking
human
about witch
condition.
hunts, Nicky,
Yeah.
just think back to the Ashes Baker, if you ask her.